Good afternoon, everyone. And my name's Richard Moore, and welcome to episode 7 of the Business Lincolnshire live show. Now, the aim of these monthly shows, if you've been joining them since March when we started the shows, is really to talk about the topics across Lincolnshire that are affecting businesses and organisations across the county and across Rutland as well. We obviously want to share the support that's available to business owners, but also give you information, answer questions, things like that. If you want to get involved with the show, the important thing to do is use the live chat facility. So if you've joined through LinkedIn on the LinkedIn event, you'll see there's a live chat area in there. If you're watching through Facebook or Twitter, you can leave comments. The same on YouTube as well. You've got comments there. So we always encourage people to get involved with the show, to engage with the show, and really make it as valuable as we can for you. Now, this month's show, we're focusing on a subject that's really at the heart of Lincolnshire and Rutland, and that's agriculture and agri-tech, and how Lincolnshire is really leading the way and turning farming challenges of today into sustainable supply for tomorrow. So we're going to be joined by 4 guests across the show today. First up, we're going to have Growth Hub's agricultural and horticultural advisor, that's Paul Ward, and Paul's going to be talking about the challenges across this broad sector, some of the support that's on offer to businesses and in form of grants. And he's also going to talk about the Environmental Land Management Scheme, or ELMS. Paul then is going to be followed by Janet Bellamy. She's the Associate Professor of Digitalisation and Food Processing at the University of Lincoln. And she's going to introduce us to the work that the Food Enterprise Zone is doing on alternative packaging and automation, and why it's so crucial to the industry. We then were lucky enough to be joined by Lisa Bagley. She's the Ecosystem Manager for Barclays Eagle Labs, the Agritech Hub in Lincoln, the Barclays Farm. And she's going to be providing us with insight into the cutting edge resources that are available to to accelerate the adoption of emerging technologies. And obviously that's aimed at increasing efficiencies across the food supply chain from field to fork. And then finally, we're going to be joined by Duncan Worth. Now, Duncan's CEO of AH Worth, and he's going to discuss how they've embraced sustainable farming, what that journey's meant to them as a business, and how it can be achieved by others across the county. So a lot to cover in today's show. So let's get started and let's meet Paul.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the introduction.
Just tell people a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name's Paul Ward, and I've over 30 years experience in the agri and hort sector, mainly in produce. Started in Lincolnshire with ADAS and then worked for Lingarden before moving to the global scene, and have worked in the sector for over 34 years. I felt at the time when I took the role that my job skills suited ideally for what the role involved, and in essence, I'm an extension advisor for the Growth Hub. The challenges initially that we were looking at was really about COVID and EU exit and what we could do to support people. Gradually, though, we started to increase the role to cover resilience, looking at successional planning, looking at welfare, looking at what we could do to be more sustainable. Now, within the role, part of what I do is work very closely with other organisations, and you'll hear from Janet Bellamy from Lincoln University, who I work closely with. But as part of the role, I also work with some of the other specialists in the area, such as Merrill Levington of Active, also the Lincolnshire Chamber of Commerce, and those two organisations are doing a lot of work on business resilience within agriculture. At the same time, my own role covers import and export guidance as a result of EU exit, seasonal labour changes, a range of technical support, quality management, food safety type of issues, looking at new markets. One of the biggest challenges we've got at the minute is the vegetable sector is in the doldrums. So what we're trying to do is trying to find alternatives. What are we going to do when the Common Agricultural Policy ends in 2027? Can we find some new ideas for people to work on? As well as that, I try and link us to innovation centres. And then the key one as well is sustainability. Now, as Richard said, we're faced with some real challenges, and some of those challenges include the age of farmers, the fact that there's not many new entrants coming into it, the lack of labour, and then the cost of everything. Because of EU exit and because of COVID, prices have generally gone up. So these are some of the challenges that we're faced with. Now, as mentioned before, I'm involved with innovation and grants. Now, Janet will talk about the LEAT, but I just want to mention the fact that at the moment there's a £17.5 million pot available. The closing date for open applications is between the 24th of November to the 1st of December on that one. And then the fourth option within that first batch ends on the 5th of January. There's a second pot just recently announced on the 16th of November. It's a £27 million pot. This is really looking at farm equipment and technology. And again, there is a tight deadline on that. And I believe that one closes on the 7th of January. And then the applications will be reviewed between January and June. The Lincolnshire Open Research and Innovation Centre is also available to people who want to look at new business databases. And then there is the Natural Environment Readiness Fund. This is a fund of about 25 to 100k for businesses who are looking at carbon management and carbon sequestration. Right, now we'll talk a little bit about sustainability. Having worked very closely in the sector, I've been involved with LEAF over many years, and I'm pleased to see the ELM scheme will help in that drive to achieve overall carbon neutrality by 2050. There are three schemes: the Sustainable Farming Initiative, which was piloted in 2021 and launches in 2022. Basically, the farmers follow standards and they apply it across the whole farm. The next level, which launches a pilot in 2022 and goes live in 2024, will be the local nature recovery scheme. And then finally, the most detailed one will be the landscape recovery scheme, again, which will have 10 projects in 2022 and goes live in 2024. The last one I mentioned is the wilding project, where you're returning to boggy land, lakes and so forth. The one thing I will point out, our first initiative already looking at alternative crops is on fruit trees. We had a meeting recently, and within that we're looking at regenerative agriculture for a sustainable future. And at the same time, we're also seeing if it can apply within the elms sector. Well, I'm going to leave it at that unless there's any specific questions.
Well, there's just what other support? You've talked about the financial support, but I believe there's webinars, there's the Business Lincolnshire website.
Exactly. As well. So to give you an idea, we've run several webinars this year. We have had an EU exit webinar back in March, advising people on what steps to take. In late March, we looked at the changes that were applying to migration of workers and what people had to do by June. We've looked at technology. So we've had an aerial imaging and technologies webinar in April, and then in September we've also run an EU export webinar, which looked at the steps that people have to follow in order to complete the right documentation to export goods. In December, we're hoping to run an import webinar because obviously the new plant health rules come into play from the 1st of January. So if anybody's interested, they can just check on the Business Lincolnshire website once we put that particular link up.
How do they find out about these? Are these promoted on social media as well?
Yeah, we do post on LinkedIn, and then if I have your email address, I also send out circulars just to let you know about any grants, any work we're doing, and any webinars and so forth, just to keep people informed. Perfect.
Thanks a lot, Paul. And so to get in touch with you, people can connect on LinkedIn or they can email you.
Yeah, definitely. The email address is there at the bottom of the screen. And as I say, I will be contacting people individually. And I'm hoping now that COVID is a bit more relaxed, we can meet up on farm and discuss any particular challenges that you may have. If you need any help with some of the other things like the visitor economy, digitization, you can also get in touch with me. Use me as a hub connection to the other services within the Business Lincolnshire team, please.
Perfect. Right. Any last words of advice for anyone who works in agriculture and horticulture then?
Yeah, currently it's very challenging out there, but I do see a sustainable future, and I do see quite a good future for agriculture and horticulture in Lincolnshire. We're going to try and help each sector over the coming months. So just keep an eye on the website and look out for emails and LinkedIn messages.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Paul. Thanks for your time today. And we'll talk to you soon. Right. So let's bring in Janet. Let's meet Janet from the University of Lincoln.
Hi, Richard.
Good morning. How are you, Janet?
Very well, thank you.
Fabulous. And tell people who are watching the show just a little bit about yourself and a bit of background on yourself.
Okay, so my name's Janet Bellamy. I am the Associate Professor of Digitalisation and Food Processing at the National Centre for Food Manufacturing. My background, I didn't start off in academia. I actually started off in industry. Well, if truth be told, I actually started off on a farm in the middle of the fens because I worked for Marshall Brothers over at Butterwick. So my first job and my first introduction to food was looking at collie harvesting and cabbage. So I literally have gone from field to fork in terms of the journey of my career. And 34 years later, I then decided to make the move out of food manufacturing and across into the role that I'm doing now with the university. So I head up research into digitalisation and food processing. Work very closely with Paul Ward and other colleagues across Business Links, but also across the university. So I work closely with the team over at LIAT, which is the Agri-Tech Research Institute over at Riceholme. So they're focusing very much around robotics for agriculture, so harvesting robots, monitoring crop maintenance, etc. But I also work closely with my colleagues at Holbeach, and there's a very good reason why we're 50 miles south of the main campus, and that's because we are right in the heart of Food Valley. So the thing that makes us different, and I think the thing that makes me different within this academic world, is that we're all industry hybrids. So we have a huge amount of experience. I share an office with 4 other people, and I think there's 120 years combined industry experience within that office. So whatever we do, whatever research we're undertaking, it's transformational research because it's answering the problems of industry here and now. And that's exactly the same approach from LIAT as well over at Riceholme. We're just moving into the new buildings over at the Food Enterprise Zone at Holbeach at Peppermint Junction. So we now have the Centre of Excellence over there, and that contains all of our micro labs, chemistry labs. We've got sensory suites in there, fantastic MPD kitchens, as well as the usual lecture rooms, etc. We've still got the working food factory over at the NCFM site on Park Road at Holbeach. And we've also got a test bed there for robotics as well. So we've got robots that you can come and have a look in action. So there's lots to support business and lots of exposure for business to all of this emerging technology. And at the same time, you're supported by industry hybrids like me that are doing the research, but the research is there for a specific purpose.
Fabulous. So just explain a little about how businesses can actually access the programs and the services that the university offers.
Well, there's a wide range of programs that are available, and that can be from just direct support. We call it consultancy support, where you have a question and you put that question to an expert and they answer the question for you. Or it can be funding. So we've got grant assisted programs as well. Or we've got a combination of both, but there's also other routes through the university like knowledge transfer partnerships. We can apply for bigger projects that deliver real transformational change as joint sponsors with industry on a particular development that involves us doing some research and bringing new and innovative ideas to that business. The key thing in all of this is just get in touch with us and ask the question. Paul's already said he's available. You can contact us through Paul, or you can just come straight to us. My contact details will be shown on the screen. So again, feel free to just get in touch with me. That's it. Yep, fantastic. Drop me an email. And basically my role as well is a bit of a gatekeeper within NCFM. So if it's not best suited to my skills, I can direct you to somebody that can answer the question or can solve the problem. And that could be anything from shelf life testing to audit support, right the way through to, I want a robotic solution to my current process. So it literally can be anything, and any size of business, from a one-man band up to somebody like Unilever.
Yeah, so if someone's watching this and they think, I really want to know more about how emerging technology can help me in my business, how would they do that?
Again, get in touch. But we also have webinars that we've previously recorded. There's lots of webinars that we do on a regular basis that showcase some of this emerging technology. But, the real thing about that I find with the food industry is we want to see it, we want to touch it.
Yeah.
And if you want that sort of proof, just come and have a look at where we are. Get in touch with us. Let's get you to site. We can come and have a look at your site if that's required. But the key thing is come and see the technology for yourself and see what it can do. And we've got that in the working factory and in the robot lab. The other thing that we're just in the process of developing, which is due to open next year, is the Institute of Technology. So one of the things that businesses are conscious of is the amount of disruption that this sort of change makes to their business. Or we'll have the new Siemens MindSphere package in there, which allows us to create a digital twin of your business or your factory or process, and then try this idea out in a simulated environment. So if you think about the Sims games that the teenagers play, it's very much like that, only it's your factory. And you can try out these different scenarios literally before you buy to see what the impact will be on the process.
Yeah, and some of the challenges that obviously the sector's facing, such as labour shortages, how do you think technology can address those sorts of things?
There's real simple solutions to this. Sometimes it's just a case of a sensor on a line or reconfiguring a line. I think the bit that puts people off is that they hear the digital tag, they hear the robotics tag, and straight away put £1 million price tags to it. And it's not always that expensive. It could be a £20 sensor. The best starting place is to get in touch. Let's have a look at your business. We can come and do a site assessment, listen to what your needs are. It's not about us telling you what your needs are. We want to talk to you and understand where your concerns are, where the advantages are for your business, and then it's about us presenting solutions to you for those. And again, we can signpost you to funding to actually make that happen.
Yeah, so one of those the funding options is Cotomaco?
Cotomaco. So the Cotomaco, the Cotomaco Fund is a Northwest European fund, and basically what that does is it pays for up to €10,000 rather of consultancy services, where you get an expert like me that comes into the business, does an assessment, and then gives you a short, medium, and long-term option. And really, the short term might be simple changes, the medium-term solution might be basic automation, and the long term could be cobots, collaborative robots. So it very much does look at your business and then come up with the best solutions. It costs that out. So it gives you a business plan for that future development that you can then go to the next stage of funding with. Unfortunately, there's no capital funding attached to this, but it does link very nicely into some of the other capital schemes. And if people are interested, there is a link there. Go onto the website. If you submit the expression of interest form there, it pings me an email and I'll be in touch with you.
Amazing. That's great. So same with I said to Paul, is there any last bits of advice you want to leave people with then, Janet?
I think don't be afraid of getting in touch. Don't be afraid of asking questions. And, please, if you have got an issue or a concern, then talk to us, because there are people here that can help you. And I think some of the time it's just the fact that people don't realise we're here and what services we can do, but it is very, very broad. So don't stew on a problem, just ring us up.
Amazing. Thank you very much for your time today, Janet. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye. Right, so let's bring in Lisa. Lisa's from Barclays, and she'll tell us all about the Eagle Labs and particularly the agri-tech side of Eagle Labs. How are you doing, Lisa? You all right?
I'm all right, Richard. Are you?
Fabulous. Yeah, very good. Thanks. So just fill us in a bit on the Eagle Labs and the involvement in agriculture and how that's come about.
Okay, so at Barclays, Eagle Labs, our mission is to connect the UK's entrepreneurial ecosystem through a network of business incubators, expertise and support. So we have 25 labs dotted all around the UK at the moment. So we're as far north as Aberdeen, as far south as Jersey and Guernsey, and we're across in Belfast. And all of our labs have that focus on there to support entrepreneurs and businesses. So to do that, we put on things like events. So they may be local events, so like our coffee mornings that we have, where we have people like Paul on to talk about what he's doing and what support is there, or just to talk about what grants are coming out, etc. But we also have national events, and one that's coming up soon is a sustainability event around how adopting sustainable innovation practices and accessing the UK government's Help to Grow scheme can help your business grow. So we also have a wealth of information on our website, and this is all about having a support hub on there where we have advice on well-being, we have written content, we have videos that will cover things like business planning or marketing, and then we also have things like mentoring, which is solely there from either the Cambridge Judge Business School or Codebase. And this is about having entrepreneurs that have done that journey able to mentor new entrepreneurs that are coming out because they've actually walked that journey. We have all of that expertise on the banking side, but we want real people who have done this journey to support. And like you said, we very much have an agricultural focus here in Lincoln.
Yeah.
So we are part of the LEAT.
So how did that come about? How did, obviously, Lincoln having the Eagle Lab here having such a specific focus for agriculture, how was that identified in Barclays as a sector that was of particular interest?
I suppose really Barclays can track their first transaction into the agricultural field, no pun intended, back about 350 years. So not far from here, there was a transaction over a handshake in a field. Since then, we've grown to a point where we have about 30,000 agricultural clients on our books. We would be doing a disjustice to those clients if we weren't looking at the sector and the innovation that's coming out. And the tie-up with the LEAT here and the facilities that we have go hand in hand with that. We do a lot of upskilling of our own agricultural managers in terms of what we are seeing in emerging technology. Yeah. We upskill them so that they can be that trusted advisor to their clients, but we're also here supporting that innovation coming out. Mm-hmm. And one of the great sides of the Eagle Labs is that you don't have to be a Barclays customer to be part of that network. Right. And we also launched a virtual membership so that doesn't matter geographically either where you are, we will support you.
Amazing. And so what are some of the challenges that you've seen? Obviously, we've talked about the challenges that other people have seen in the show so far. Are the things that you've seen in the industry and how the Eagle Labs has helped, certainly the businesses that you're you have as tenants in the Eagle Labs. Can you talk a bit
Yeah,
about
I suppose sorry, Richard, I suppose we're seeing the same sorts of challenges on there. And we see intelligent robotics as that key development area to see a lot of the automation challenges that we're facing. So your things like your transport, your logistics, your automation, and just that whole labour workforce coming into it. So the energy side, we all see the pressures at the moment in terms of where's our energy going to come from and the increase of that one. So one of the businesses that we're supporting is Terra Vista. Yeah. Now, they are a specialist in miscanthus grass, and this has incredible properties to enable to improve soils and store carbon. It increases biodiversity. I can put my teeth in, but it's used as well as a biofuel in power stations.
Right.
So this is a natural source of energy, which is fantastic. We've also got a company called Recycle Crop Nutrients. Now, their business is to complete that circle with solutions for waste, which I love. It's the whole circular economy. Yeah. So their initial aim is to look at waste streams from manufacturing processes that contain nutrients for crops and could help in improving soil structures and the carbon levels. So basically, they're taking the burnt poultry ash that comes from AD units, which a lot of the farms will have, when they're burning their own poultry manure for energy, leaving a very rich nutrient ash. They granulate this and then it is used to regenerate soil that has been heavily farmed. So that whole circular economy is taken care of.
Yeah.
So which is amazing. And then the other one, really exciting, I've got to tell you about this. Fruitcast, they've developed an automated robotic system to support berry production.
Yeah.
So it's a novel machine learning approach for detecting, tracking, and estimating the yield for soft fruit in agriculture. So it will help to predict yields far more precise than can be done at the moment. And again, that will support that food waste.
Yeah. So very frontline challenges that are being addressed by the programme as well.
Yeah.
And what's the future hold then for Barclays Labs at Lincoln then? What can you see the next 12 months and even longer term? It sounds like a good support programme. So where do you see it going?
Well, we're going to continue with our programmes like our Agritech Accelerator. So that will be starting again January, February time. So the applications will open for that. So any Agritech businesses, look out for that. I'll be sending that information out through the LEP and Lincolnshire Live. And we had a cohort last year that came on it and they are just flying. We've got 2 new pre-accelerators, which are going to be happening with Cultivate. So they're based at Harper Adam. So these are looking at the businesses that are just starting out, and these accelerators support them on that learning track in how they need to do their marketing, doing their founders agreement, shareholding. So we try and take care of that business side and that education side that they can continue to innovate and grow. There's more labs going to be coming online. We're looking at more programs and events with Goliath on there, and our funding readiness program, which is an amazing program that takes entrepreneurs through that funding cycle. So we talk all around the bootstrapping to the crowdfunding, the grant funding, and on to teaching hints and tips and tricks when they're looking for VC pitching. So we try and cover all of those bases for them because we know it's such an important sector.
Yeah, absolutely. And people can get in touch with you. I'll put your email address up on there, Lisa. There's also the website. Let's share the website with people so they know where to head for the Eagle Labs Agritech website, labs.uk.barclays/agritech. Anything else you want to leave people with before we go, Lisa?
Collaboration is the key to the sectors that we are solving. So it's a lot of the time it's you need to broaden your network. You need to make sure that you're sharing any issues or problems that you're having, because the biggest thing that we find in our network is that we don't know, we will know somebody that does know, and that collaboration will support any challenges that we are going to see.
Amazing. Well, thanks for your time today, and we'll certainly be checking out the Eagle Labs and keeping an eye on what happens over the next few years. Thanks a lot. Take care, Lisa.
Thank you, Richard.
Bye. Right now, that was really interesting. Let's meet Duncan Worth. He's a CEO at AH Worth, and he's going to talk about sustainability and regenerative farming and how they've been really leading this. So nice to meet you, Duncan. How are you?
Very good, Richard. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Excellent. So you're actually right on the front line of this. So just give us a bit of a potted history on AH Worth and what's brought you to where you are now.
Yes, Richard. Well, I count myself extremely lucky to be fourth generation in a family business. It is a legacy that I need to sort of keep going. I mean, my history is that I came back to the business when I was about 30. And before that, I've been in retail and contract catering as buyer. And that gave me a really good sort of understanding of what's out there. And as you said, I'm now CEO of the business. Mm-hmm. And the business is really to do with both farming, and we also have a packing business. Today, as far as sustainability, it's a lot about, I'm going to be talking a lot about the farming business. And the farming business is it's full rotation. We rotate around potatoes. So potatoes is our key crop, with wheat being a break crop, which is different to a lot of other people. But we grow other crops like vining peas, sugar beet and maize. We also have our packing business, and our packing business, we supply retailers such as Aldi, Tesco's, Lidl. Keeps us awake at night at times, but there you go. But also food service and food manufacturing, and you know it's a big business, and we've heard sort of earlier about the sort of issues that are happening. You know, whether it's labour, whether it's logistics in our industry at the moment, which we're tackling head on. And interestingly, we've just acquired a new business. So we've just acquired Emmett's, and that is spinach, kale, Cavallonero and leeks, mainly to Tesco's and Waitrose. So plenty on my plate, but it's interesting times at the moment, quite difficult times in places. But, you know, the future, I think, as Paul said, is if we can get over the current issues, you know, there's some good stuff out there.
So it's 1895 the farm was started, is that correct?
My great-grandfather came to the area, and that's what he did in 1895, yeah, quite some time ago.
And so the whole sustainability piece, was that your grandfather or your father who really started that then?
I think it's gone through the generations. I mean, my great-grandfather was a real entrepreneur, and he started the business and grew the business very quickly. But then as my grandfather came on and my father came on, you know, that sustainability message has always been, you know, at the forefront of what we do. And it goes through the sort of, so in the business, we have our family values, and we call our family values, there's an acronym called SPIRIT, and sustainability is the S at the start of our spirit values. So sustainability, participation, integrity, relationships, innovation, and teamwork. So that's how we work as a family. But sustainability is, you know, absolutely key as far as that's concerned. And, you know, as an example of the sort of generations beforehand, I mean, my grandfather and father, you know, our farm, it was marshland and it has been reclaimed. And over the years, they've been very, very good at sort of putting trees in, spinneys in around the farm. They've been good at planting hedges, you know, and the hedges are absolutely great because, you know, those hedges are between those bits of trees and they act as wildlife corridors. So the wildlife can get from one set of trees to another, which is, you know, great as far as that sort of sustainability message. And really, I mean, my father, I mean, I think, Paul talked about LEAF, Linking Environment and Farming, which is you know, a great organisation. In fact, Tesco have just announced that all their products need to be grown under the LEAF accreditation. And we've been a demonstration farm since '97. My father was chairman of LEAF for a time. And it's absolutely key, in my view, that that's how we manage our farm and our farming business and how other people should be ongoing. Yes, you need the food safety. Of course you do. Yes, you need productivity. But farming with looking after the environment at the same time is absolutely key.
Amazing. And you place a lot of importance in soil protection, don't you, as part of your sustainable farming? Can you tell us how that works in practice?
Yeah, we're working more and more on our soils, and so we should be. I mean, the sort of the bit of soil that is productive is only about 18 inches deep. Below that is raw silt, which you can't grow anything. So, we have to make sure that we protect and enhance our soil to ensure that we've got productivity, not just today, but for tomorrow as well. And, and some examples of what we're doing. So, first of all, cultivations. Well, 10 years ago, we were ploughing, about 1,000 hectares a year, a big area. Over time, we've brought that down, and this year we'll only be ploughing about 170 hectares on land that really needs that turning over. And in reducing our ploughing, we're really helping to preserve that organic matter and enhance that soil structure. But we're doing that with a lot of cover crops as well. So we're more and more putting cover crops in. And it's an interesting one because we're still experimenting with cover crops. We just happen to be we've put 350 hectares of cover crops in this year. So rather a large experiment. But it seems to be working well. It's not taking things or moving things backwards, but it is sort of enhancing what we do. And we put those cover crops in front of our spring crops, mainly potatoes and peas, and it's enhancing the soil diversity and the organic matter, which is really helping. And it also means that we're putting less metal in the ground and also using less diesel, which is, there is a financial incentives for it, but we're still working on it. For example, we put some clover in this year and we just couldn't get the germination quite right. So we've got some there, but not the plant stand that we wanted. And of course, clover is nitrogen fixing. So that adds to the soil as well.
Yeah, and it's very interesting you say there's a cost saving. I mean, obviously dropping from 10,000 hectares down to 170. Was it acres, was it?
No, that's hectares. But it is, we're putting different cultivations in there, but not that ploughing. And we are saving cost before cover it. But we've got to be really careful that we don't save too much cost. And then actually the productivity of the land for the next year goes down as well. So far, we're getting that balance about right. But it is not an easy journey, and no one should think that.
Right. Very interesting. And then talk a bit about the anaerobic digestion plant that you've put on the farm as well. I was really interested to hear about that.
Yeah, we've got 7 or 8 years ago, we joined up with a business. Well, it's now Biogen, and we have a 1.5 megawatt AD plant, anaerobic digestion plant, on a main site. And for those that don't know much about anaerobic digestion, it's basically a concrete cow. So we've got a big vessel which we're putting organic matter in, and our organic matter is a base of maize, but we also peel a lot of potatoes. So we're putting a lot of potato peel in, and then there is some organic matter imported as well. And bacteria breaks it down and it produces methane. But what we're doing is we're putting that methane into an engine and generating electricity. And for our site, 90% of our electricity comes from that engine, which is, as far as our sustainability credentials, is absolutely spot on. But also, interestingly, because we've got the soils that we've been talking about, it's got a byproduct, and the byproduct is digestate, and that is a nutrient-rich liquid, and we're using it as organic fertilizer. So we're putting that fertilizer, that digestate, onto our growing wheat crops, and so in the spring we trickle it on with a dribble bar. And it's giving us, not all of our nitrogen, probably a third to a half of the nitrogen that is needed, as well as a lot of other goodies that are in that product. And for us, we're putting about 30,000 cubic meters on, and with the price of nitrogen has doubled in the last year, and it's saving us. We think it's a crude calculation, but about £200,000 a year. So actually, it's less artificial fertilizers, but also it's saving us a considerable amount of money, and it's really goodness, or some goodness. Does that make sense? That we're putting on the land, which is great.
So how long have you been using that digestion plant then?
It's about 7 years. So we really are getting to know how to manage it. And that's not just about the electricity production, but it's also about the digestate and how to spread it. And we're very lucky that, well, we invested over the years in an underground sort of irrigation main, so we can pump it through the underground irrigation main, not put it in tankers and not put a lot of weight onto our land. So it's just a tractor and a dribble bar. And so we're not harming the soil in any great way as well. So, you know, with all of these things in farming, we're in farming for the long term. And it takes time to learn, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be experimenting to try and get better. And that's what we're trying to do.
So a great investment on your side, giving you power and the fertilizer side and savings there. Yeah, excellent. Right, fabulous. So let's have a quick look at the website then. Let's put the website up for you. If you want to find out more, find out more about the work that Duncan and the farm are doing, visit the website. I'm sure people can connect with you on LinkedIn as well, Duncan. Just ask you questions. Is there anything else you want to leave people with?
Well, I mean, the only thing I was going to say really is that, you know, I am very lucky, as I said right at the beginning, to be a member in a family business. Very lucky for it to be fourth generation, and I want it to get to many more than fourth generations. And I consider myself, specifically as far as the land and the soil is concerned, as a caretaker. And my main aim is to make sure that, you know, the soils, the land that I inherited, are better for the next generation. So I'm not just looking after them, but I'm enhancing them. And the things that we're doing with cover crops, with digestate and things like that, and with leaf and following the leaf principles, and hedges and wildlife, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to pass on to the next generation in a better condition. And that's, in my view, that's what farming's all about. It's a generational thing, and it's the long term that we should be thinking about.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Well, thank you for your time today, Duncan. Really interesting to hear the story of the farm, and long may it continue for you.
Agreed.
Take care. Bye now. Right. Well, that's the end of this week's show. Just to let you know that we have a further show, an additional November show coming next Wednesday, the 30th of November. And this is going to be focusing on the business.visit Lincolnshire, the new visitor economy portal that's going to be supporting visitor economy across Rutland and Lincolnshire. So that's going to be the next show that we're running for Business Lincolnshire Live. That's next Wednesday. So look forward to seeing you then. It's been a really great show this week. I've really enjoyed it, mainly because of it just shows how Lincolnshire's leading the way in a lot of these areas. Yes, there's challenges out there, but the way these challenges are being addressed, the advice, the support that's available in our county, I think we should all be really proud of what we're doing towards sustainability, agriculture and horticulture. So I hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you for your questions that were sent in. Thank you to all the guests who were on the show. And we look forward to seeing you next week, as I say, 12 noon next week, Wednesday, the 30th of November. And we'll talk to you then. All right, take care. See you soon. Bye now.